Hi, everyone, and welcome to April's session in our digital media training series. And we are so excited you're here. We are joined again by Hannah and Molly from YMC. So I'm going to turn it over to them to take it away. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. It's great to be back. As always, if you have any questions, anything to add, throw it in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand. We'll address it, ask questions throughout. So let us kick this off. Just as a reminder, we are from YMC. That is a millennial and Gen Z focused full service marketing and communications agency. We work to connect brands, companies, organizations with Gen Z and the younger generations through very authentic and relevant campaigns. My name is Hannah Hickman. I am the digital marketing director for YMC, and I'm very excited to be here with you guys today. My co-host Molly will introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Molly. Thanks, Hannah, and I'm a senior program strategist at YMC, and I'm really excited to be back and talking to you all about paid marketing campaigns.
So today we are diving into planning and executing paid marketing social media campaigns. These can be a bit complicated, and we're hoping to demystify these platforms, their processes, and help you get on the right path to doing this, if that is something that you and your organization are interested in. Molly, you're on mute.
Keep doing that today. Sorry about that, everyone. So when there's so many free alternatives to a paid marketing campaign, a totally fair question as to why, what's the point? So there's several benefits to a paid campaign, the first and foremost being targeting. So with a paid campaign, the ability to target your audiences and ensure that the right people are seeing them is definitely a lot more applicable. And organic content can only go so far, and it might not be seen by the right people that you're intending to see it. So what paid advertising does is it allows you to target from a variety of factors, such as location, interest, demographic, and it will even allow you to upload contact lists that you specifically want to target. The next piece is guaranteed metrics. So when putting money behind a campaign, you're guaranteed that there will be some eyes on your content, but social media feeds can be finicky sometimes, and your content might not be seen by your audience. So paid advertising ensures that your content is in feed and relevant to the people who you're trying to get to see your content. And lastly is an audience expansion. So engaging your current audience is great, but what we really want to focus on is reaching out to more people because that could be highly effective and help increase your reach on a long-term scale. There are, of course, though, some drawbacks to putting money behind a campaign. The first being that there's kind of a nuanced expertise element. So you might need a little bit more manpower to manage a paid campaign. The advertising platforms are not always super straightforward and might require some expertise or training to navigate. While there are many guides and other kind of like instructions, there is a reason that this is a full-time career for a lot of individuals. So if you're not careful or you're not sure about what to look for, you can sometimes overspend on your budget or not reach your target audience, or lead to a campaign that hurts your reputation more than helps achieve your goals. So a really important part will be that a paid campaign is executed thoughtfully and thoroughly. And then also clearly, there's a budget element. Advertising requires money, and it can be more effective to spend money elsewhere rather than on social media. So depending on how your particular marketing budget goes, this may or may not be the right play for your department. It depends on your goals, your capabilities, other kind of factors like that. But money is a large driving factor for deciding whether or not this is right for your department.
Okay, so let's dive into some of these paid social media campaign platforms. They're a great effective way to reach large audiences, and every social media platform out there really does offer some sort of offering for paid advertising. However, some might be a better bang for your buck, just in terms of how far your budget will go, how you can target, how easy it is to access these platforms, as well as their effectiveness. So this chart, as well as the chart on the next slide, is going to be a really good tool for you to refer to in the future. And all these slides, as well as some additional resources, are sent out after. So let's dive in. Facebook and Instagram, the reason that these are linked together is because they are both owned by Meta and utilize the same exact ad platform. There are a variety of ads that you can run, such as images, links, texts, videos, polls, carousels, lead generation. You could do messenger ads. You could do Instagram story ads. There are so many different options there. And it's very easy to do 2 campaigns at once. So these are really well suited for campaigns where they're very hyper-specific targeting, as well as anything from a local to a national campaign. And they tend to return a really great invest with good ROI for smaller budgets as well. So this is really an effective tool and something that many of you may already be familiar with or have used in the past. Twitter also offers several ad options. These include promoted tweets, promoted accounts, trends, moments. They are really great for national campaigns as their targeting tends to be a little bit more broad. The reason behind this is because these accounts don't have a lot of information. If you go on Twitter, you'll notice a lot of people don't have their real name. They don't have a lot of personal information. They often have a picture that's unrelated. Therefore, a lot of the demographics that you would get from, say, Facebook and Instagram are not going to be the same that you're getting from Twitter. It's definitely much better suited for larger budgets and national campaigns. TikTok ads, those are typically video. However, there are some image options out there. They tend not to be very effective, so you'd want to really stick with video. They offer a really great range of targeting and get hyper specific. As you know, when you scroll through TikTok, you're going to get videos that are very, very well attuned to your interests, your likes, and it's very good at figuring out what to advertise. That being said, there's an extreme amount of competition on TikTok, and it tends to be most effective if you're working with a very, very, very large budget. It's not typically great if you're just trying to get to your local college community. But if you're trying to get to every college student, great option. And then Pinterest ads. So Pinterest is not always well suited for colleges. That being said, their advertising is very effective with many users engaging with their ads and advertising. It tends to have a very high return on investment. I believe it's well over 70% of people who click on the ads, especially for items on Pinterest, tend to actually buy something or to engage with that brand longer term. That being said, not well suited for colleges all the time. Their targeting is pretty decent, especially on a local and a national level, mostly intended though to sell products and services. So other types of paid social media ads that you can utilize. LinkedIn, they offer a variety of type of ads, whether it's images, text, video, carousels, or even using LinkedIn InMail. It's great for attracting leads, building professional contacts, or if you're recruiting for a position. However, it might not be the best tool if you're looking to get students interested and engaged. Students are absolutely on LinkedIn. Some of them are probably on LinkedIn from high school, even before, but they're using it for jobs, personal connections, and they're probably not looking for their own college communities there. Snap or Snapchat, they have a great advertising platform with a variety of ad types, such as videos, images, which again, images aren't really recommended for such a visual heavy platform, filters, lenses, stories, and commercials. Their targeting can get very specific, and a vast majority of their users are going to be your audience for Gen Z and college age. They're also really well suited for both events and longer term activations, as their advertising platform will allow you to do specific filters and lenses for a set period of time and a specific geography. A lot of colleges do already employ this for like a general Snapchat filter or lens that you can use over the entire campus that you can no longer use after you leave campus. So these are really great, especially for one-off events or a longer term activation. Google also has a great ad platform. However, it's a bit complicated in the process to run advertising on it. There's a lot of different options there that might not be well suited. There are certifications to learn more about this, and a lot of these tend to be low cost or free. The ad options there include search, display, shopping, video ads, as well as within the Google app and Discover. They offer a really wide range of targeting, and small budgets can be very effective. However, it is very well suited for long-term campaigns over many months rather than doing a specific engagement or a specific event, more for raising awareness for your office and your services rather than telling students to come to an event on this day at this time. And then YouTube, which is owned by Google as well. Those ads are largely video. There's both pre-roll or in-stream the videos that you see in the beginning of the video, or the ones that your video is cut off in the middle showing that. There are some link ads available as well, though I do believe you can get those set up through Google. These are really well suited for regional and national campaigns, and then usually do require a larger budget than regular Google campaigns in order to make more of an impact. That being said, YouTube ads tend to have a lower return on investment, and it's getting lower and lower as we go, just due to the prevalence of ad blockers, and people just don't like ads on their videos. So those are just some of the options that you have out there, something that you can consider, you can use. One thing might be great for one advertising campaign that you do, another platform might not be. So it's good to know a little bit about each and every one and all the options available to you.
Perfect. So goal setting with a paid advertising functions pretty differently than an organic campaign. And this is primarily because you're able to tell an advertising platform what are your goals and set them up so that your campaign focuses on these goals and achieving them. So we'll run through just a couple of really common examples of goals in a campaign like this and just kind of explain kind of how these two can intertwine. So if your goal is to raise awareness, your ad campaign is going to focus more on optimizing impressions and eyes on ads. So this will be the main priority rather than encouraging clicks or further engagement. If your focus is conversions, this typically is in the form of like a sign up. And this could be for an event or an email list or a petition or something like that. Your campaign will focus on those who are most likely to sign up and really target that group and employ some strategies to, again, encourage that interaction. If your goal is lead generation and you just want more eyes on your website, your ad campaign will be delivered to those most likely to be interested and click on your website. And that will be kind of how your advertisements are used. And then lastly, donations. I know that this might be kind of common for all of us in this group. So if you're aiming for donations, you could kind of use the advertising platform to focus on those who would be more likely to donate, those who have a history of donating, and kind of encourage those people to click through your website and make those donations.
So let's talk a little bit about budgeting. There are a variety of options to determine your ad budget and how to best use these funds. So first things first, figure out how much money you have available and how to best divvy it up. Start large at a macro scale, look at your entire budget for the year, and then look at what you have to promote. If you have a lot of events or promotions that you'd like to promote throughout the year, prioritize the importance of each of these events and allocate your budget accordingly. If you're looking for a longer term promotion for the general awareness, figure out if it makes sense to divvy up your budget equally among the weeks and months, or if there's times that you need to focus it on more than others. Make sure you keep your school calendar in mind. If you are doing a geo-targeted campaign, that is a campaign that is only going to be going to a certain geographic region, you don't want to put money in that during a break, which means that you can spend your entire budget without reaching anybody that you want to actually reach. If you have a smaller budget, your budget is going to be best used for short-term promotions, such as an event and things that you can only promote for a short amount of time, say a month or under. Even a week is probably more effective than having it spread out over a month. For larger budgets, these are really well suited for long-term campaigns and just for general goals, like raising awareness, audience expansion, getting more people in the door. There are advertising options for as little as $10, such as boosting a Facebook post, which is a little bit different than running a long-term campaign. It's just one post for a short amount of time to get it to the top of the feed. Not always a great return on budget, but sometimes it is a really good idea just when you need one little thing to get a little bit more attention for a while. And then you can have budgets in the millions, which I'm not thinking that you will absolutely get that because that's a little intense, but you have a really wide range out there. You can spend as little or as much as you want, but just think of how that makes the most sense in regards to timing, in regards to your audience, and so forth.
All right, so putting money behind your campaign pretty much means that you get control over who sees it. And each platform offers a variety of targeting options. And this isn't by any means a complete list, but we wanted to run through some of the general points that can be used in this type of targeting. So first and foremost is interest. So social media determines this through pages that an individual likes or follows, which content they typically interact with, and other kind of behavioral elements. Another big one is gender. Relationship status is typically limited to Facebook and Instagram, wherein this information is kind of made available. Education status and institution. So this is particularly relevant to this group, but essentially how well the highest level of education, if someone is currently enrolled as an institution, etc. So I know that that can be a really great tool for all of us here. Age is another great one. This is usually in a range and not like a specific figure, but a good idea of kind of which generational bucket someone falls into is typically known by these platforms and can be leveraged in these targeting strategies. Location is pretty straightforward. Each platform has a different way of handling this, but generally it tends to focus on a zip code, not like a specific longitude, latitude, and typically a little bit more specific than something like a town or a city. Language, this one's also pretty clear. Social media platforms get this from a few different sources. Usually it's on the device settings, so on your phone, it'll have a language. Lots of times the platform itself, the social media platform that is, will have a location, or excuse me, a language feature that is in your settings. So that's typically where it's located, and it's something clearly that is really relevant and crucial to targeting the right audience. Occupation. This is again typically for Facebook and LinkedIn too. So typically your occupation has some control or some influence over your target, but there's no standardized job title. So we recommend being cautious with this or leaning on it too much. It's more of a good supplement or supportive element. And then devices. You can typically limit a campaign to a specific device in terms of how they access the internet. So a phone, a laptop, a tablet, etc. You can also target by an operating system. So you can specifically target Apple users or Android users. And this is likely not a consideration for this particular group, but it's great when you're promoting an application that might only be available on one platform or one system versus another one. So kind of good to have in the back of your mind if from a technical side that is kind of an obstacle you're facing. And targeting varies a lot from platform to platform, which I know is kind of a theme throughout our whole presentation here. So if you're promoting a job posting, a lot of the demographic information targeting is limited to ensure that you're not discriminating against any protected classes, for example. And targeting also changes fairly frequently to ensure that individuals aren't being hyper-targeted. And that also protects individual privacy, which is a hot topic at the moment, clearly, and prevents discrimination. So whether that discrimination is intentional or otherwise, there are kind of systems set in place in most of these platforms to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Great. I also just want to add a note. Everything we're saying today is true as of today. These platforms do change the way they target quite literally every day. There'll be times that you're running a campaign perfectly fine. The next day you'll find you're not getting delivered just because that targeting was disabled or changed. So keep that in mind, keep up to date with this if you are deciding to run a platform. It's also important to keep up to date with your promotions that you're running to ensure that they're still running, you're still targeting the right people. Also, as a side note with the age, when you are targeting 18 and under, usually starting with 17, a lot of this targeting goes away. To protect minors, there are a lot of different acts involved with this. So just keep that in mind, especially if you are trying to get those early freshmen or those entering. You might not be able to actually deliver these ads or do it in a way that is going to reach your intended audiences. So keep that in mind. So we're going to do a fun little activity. If for everyone who has their phone out, I'd like you guys to go to Instagram. If you go to your profile right here, here is the profile. You can kind of see it on my phone. In the top corner, you're going to see those 3 bars. You're going to click that and it's going to open another setting, the setting thing. You're going to click settings, which should be the top option. Once you are there, there is a button that says ads. You will click ads. And then under ads, there's 2 little submenus, add preferences and general info. You are going to go under general info and click add interests. So this shows what Instagram thinks you are interested in based on your behavior, and it allows advertisers to target you in this way. So some of these are very straightforward. Mine says online shopping, home improvement, food, house, dogs. All these are really true. I advise that you scroll down a lot because then you get to see some of the more niche interests. For example, one of these things that Instagram thinks that I'm interested in is University of Newcastle, Australia. No idea what that is. I don't think I've ever interacted with something, but this is how these platforms do think that what I'm interested in and how they can offer advertisers specific targeting. Is there anyone seeing anything surprising, or are you finding anything that's very straight on for you? Feel free to drop that in the chat. There are a lot of different things up there. These lists tend to be in the many hundreds of items. Some of these might make a lot of sense to you, some might not. Feel free to drop any of these in the chat, or if you have any questions or issues accessing, just throw that in the chat. We're happy to fix that for you. So Instagram is one of the easiest ones to access in terms of seeing what advertisers think of your interest. You can also do that on, I believe, Facebook as well. So yes, I'm seeing some good things. Zillow listings. I know many of us like going through Zillow, seeing what's in the area. Helen Mirren. Some of these do get very specific. I am seeing that I have Lamborghini and Hello Kitty, which maybe I'm interested in. According to Instagram, I am. So this is just a good way to get an idea of how this targeting can work, and seeing that sometimes it's really good and sometimes not so much. It really just does depend. As you guys want to look through that, let me go through the next slide. Let's talk about optimizing. Optimizing your campaign can get a bit tricky, and this is part of why we want to suggest that you engage someone experienced with this. Social media advertising offers a wide variety of optimization settings that can really help or hurt your campaign. I do see we got a quick question. Is your advertisement change? Can you change your advertising interests? So on Instagram, not really. The reason for this is because this is what their AI has detected that you're interested in. That being said, you can go into your settings. If you go back to the previous ads menu, you can see ad topics, and you can see fewer ads about specific topics. You can also change what data is sent to advertising partners. I also do believe that you can change some of these settings in terms of privacy, but look in your settings. But in terms of actually editing the interest yourself, you cannot do that because it's all automatically generated. So let's go back to optimization. You can optimize your campaigns in a variety of ways. Some quick examples of this are timing. You can choose when your campaigns are going to be shown, from the times of day to the days of the week. Say, like we talked about for school breaks, if no one's going to be on campus, maybe don't advertise during those times. If you are trying to get students to go to the library, say at night, you don't want to advertise this at 6 a.m. and you can optimize your budget by doing this at a specific time. Another thing you could do is audience expansion. Many platforms offer this. You can have the social media platforms show your campaigns to those who you're not necessarily targeting, but fit in with the characteristics of this campaign. This is great if you want to expand your audience, raise awareness, show further things, get more interest, and it allows the intimate knowledge of these social media platforms to help you get more of this. So during your campaign, it's also important to keep an eye on your campaign, the advertising and the analytics, just to ensure that your campaign is running well, you're on target to reach your goals, and so forth. So take some time to look at your analytics to determine if you need to turn an ad on or off. Say you have 3 ads running simultaneously for a single campaign, 2 are performing really well, you're getting a really high return on investment, a low cost per click. One of these ads is having a much higher cost per click, meaning it's costing more to get people to click on this particular ad or to look at it. You can turn off or pause that particular ad, which will allow the campaign to focus more on the budget on the better performing ads and get a better bang for your buck. You can also change out your copy and images throughout a campaign. Most platforms do allow you to do this. The way you can do this is you can set up a campaign with multiple different ads, with different images, with different copy, And mid-campaign and throughout, you can see which one's performing well, which one isn't. And then you can swap out those, turn off the ones that are working, or just change them just to do some little informal A/B testing. Say you're running a campaign that has a few different ad sets, maybe different targeting, different types of ads. One of these is performing really, really well. You're having a low cost per click, you're reaching the right people, you're getting a lot of signups. And there's one that really isn't doing well. You're not getting the audience you want. It's just people ignoring it. What you could do is just change your budget around to put more of the money towards the one that's performing well and less of the money that's going to the one that isn't performing as well. This will allow you to optimize your budget, make sure you're not wasting money, and help give your campaigns more of a boost. Also, vice versa, if you have one that's performing really well and has already accomplished the goals, you could put some of that extra money from that budget into the one that's not performing as well, so that can reach its goals. Also, throughout your ad, you are often able to edit your targeting if you're not exactly reaching who you want to, or if you are want to reach some more people. So targeting is a really great tool. It can eliminate your audience if you're a little too specific, or if you choose targets that don't have a huge population. So take some time. You can examine a little bit more of how you're targeting, how they're performing, and ensure that you're reaching the right people at the right time. Throughout your campaign, you also want to do some ongoing optimization. As we said, if this is a new practice for your department or organization, we highly suggest engaging a third-party contractor or someone in your organization who has some experience with this. Entering this space is a little bit tricky, and a lot of these settings are not clear or straightforward. Something that you think might be helping you might be limiting you, and vice versa. It's a great way to get some guaranteed eyes on your content and have some more easily understood campaigns, as well as you can ensure that you are broadly or narrowly targeting as desired, and you can change that throughout. Many of these ad platforms, which we'll walk you through in a little bit, they do have some very specific metrics that you can target and make sure that you are doing the best optimization. I will warn you, that is not something that you can change mid-campaign. Usually when you set up a campaign and it asks you what your goal is, you cannot change it from that point. So make sure that you're sure before starting your campaign, and don't be afraid if it's not the right one for you to end your campaign early, take the money that you have left over and start a new one. So make sure that you are continually updating with their adjusting budgets, copy, assets, and so forth. Many platforms are going to give you an estimate in terms of performance. Not all campaigns need a lot of money behind them. A $50 spend can result in greater returns than a $1,000 spend. However, like we said, we walked through those platforms earlier. A smaller spend may not benefit you on some of those platforms. And don't be afraid to shift your strategy mid-campaign. If you're doing great on Facebook and Instagram, you can stay there. Say you did decide to try a TikTok campaign, it might not be great or effective for what you need to do. Don't be afraid to shift that to a different platform, shift it to a different strategy, or so forth. The best thing about paid advertising is that you can turn it on and off. You can stop it early. You can really have a lot of control over how things are seen. And when you do turn on ad off, it disappears from people's feeds. They're not going to see it. They're not going to be continually bombarded by it. So you have a lot more control over your content.
All right. So paid advertising has some guarantees, pretty much in terms of getting eyes on content. However, your goals for a campaign are likely a little bit more complex than just that. So a really important way for determining success in a paid campaign is capturing analytics. And we very much recommend reviewing analytics from before, during, and after a campaign. So if your campaign, for example, was looking to increase web traffic, take a look at your website sessions and analytics and see how they've changed throughout the course of the campaign. Most data management systems do have the ability to see backlogged information. So you'd be able to go back and see this from before you started your campaign and do so in hindsight. But we recommend actually taking stock in advance because that can really help with the goal setting process and can help you launch your campaign in a realistic way. But like if, for example, you were trying to get more people in the door, track visitors before, look at your visiting hours, etc. And also during the campaign and again after the campaign. And you can conduct several surveys by asking people how they heard about an event at your office or your services, etc. And this can be really helpful to capture results that might not be captured in like a clicks and impressions report alone. And paid campaigns can be tricky to determine success for in the moment. So if you're putting money into it, you might not see the results immediately. So ensure your goals are set in a way that's multifaceted. So goals that align with what your campaign can deliver, such as impressions, clicks, cost per click, etc. And then also set goals that align more exactly with what you're trying to achieve. So if you're promoting an event, use signups as a goal. So while students might have learned about the event from your ad, there are other options that they might have to have learned about something else. So signs, friends, emails, etc. And take some time to reflect after your campaign to determine if this advertising campaign was a good use of your time, resources, and money. There are a lot of platforms out there that might be better suited for your needs. And we know that campaigns can be kind of a trial and error process. So depending on your goals and population, we very much recommend at the end of a campaign, taking a look, taking stock, and seeing if it really was the best fit. You can also use this time to see if your budget worked. When you're reviewing your budget, see if it was successful and was how your team envisioned. Do you need to spend more? Do you need to spend less? Do you need to spend it differently? So kind of taking time to assess kind of what the journey of your goals have been throughout the course of the campaign is going to be huge in determining your next move. Okay, so we've talked about goal setting a lot in this program. So when you're setting your goals, it's really, really good to consider ways to measure a goal. So if you want more people to sign up, you might take a look at clicks, signups, impressions, etc. And if you want to encourage people to make an appointment, you might compare, again, appointment volume before, during, and after a campaign. It's also really important to figure out what isn't important. So if you're trying to get information out that doesn't require action necessarily, this wouldn't make a lot of sense to have like a click metric. Try to figure out what makes sense and what doesn't. So don't measure yourself against the goals of maybe another campaign or past campaigns or competitors' campaigns. Focus on what are the goals, what are the outcomes that you all are looking for, and what's going to help you accomplish your objectives. And as you continue to run campaigns, you'll learn what makes the most sense in terms of strategy and metric. Take a new approach for each campaign, and definitely do not be afraid to be flexible and kind of shift strategy halfway through a campaign. There's no rules. You can definitely change your approach as long as everyone on your team is aligned with it. And again, there could be a little bit of a trial and error process, especially if it's one of your first campaigns. And adjusting to respond to performance and circumstances will help your decision-making process moving forward, and will teach you also a lot about your target audience. So like a failure, so to speak, at least in the first part of a campaign, can provide a lot of really great and useful data. So even if the metrics aren't exactly where you wanted them and they're not totally lining up with the goals you had set, the information that you can gain can be just as helpful for the long-term approach. And then after a campaign, we encourage you to take the time to write up a report. I know we found like we've kind of mentioned this in a lot of our presentations before, but this is really so important to the learning process. It doesn't need to be like a formal report, but get your analytics and your initial game plan and take some time to reflect with your team as to what worked, what didn't work, what we would do differently next time. And these lessons will allow you to improve campaigns going forward and add knowledge about your audience and how they interact with your pages and what they respond to.
Perfect. So we're going to dive into some of these platforms to show you a little bit of what they look like, how you can also potentially use these in the future. So let us move to a different page. So I am going to open up Meta, which is now Facebook, and Instagram. Can you all see this part of my screen? Or are you still seeing the presentation? Thumbs up.
I can see.
Perfect. So when you are starting an ad in Meta, you'll be prompted to create an ad, it's going to initially ask you what your goal is. You could do automated ads, which we don't necessarily recommend because Facebook or Instagram will just kind of create something that might not align. But it does ask some more goals: leads, boosting a post, getting more messages, promoting your page. So let's just click get more website visitors. From here, it's going to ask you to input a description about what you're doing. This is just an example page that I had in college. From here, it's also going to ask you about automatic enhancements. For this, it's going to ask ways that you can potentially do this by adjusting the image, being able to adjust the way that each people view your ad and experience that. You are able to select your media. This one just pulled in directly from the Facebook page. You can usually select media either from that page, from Instagram, or stock images as well. Make sure that you do have the rights to use the images beforehand. You can change the headline of the ad, the button label as well, from learn more, apply now, contact us, whatever that makes sense for. There is also an option to add the website category. There's also special ad categories as well. In order to run these types of ads, which have to do with credit, employment, housing, or social issues, elections, and politics, you need to be verified on the platform. I don't think many of you all will be running these ads. However, to do that verification, it does take a few weeks. You need to send your social security ID and as well as like an actual photo ID image to Facebook. Then they will send you a letter to verify it. And then it takes a little bit from there. You also have that option of setting your audience. You could do smart audience, which Facebook will do what they think is the most interested for you or might be the most effective. You can also change these audience details as we talked about. You have these age ranges. They're from 18 to 65 plus. You can do underneath, you can do under 18, under 13, but for the most part, you're not going to get all the targeting options that you would like. So to move that back up, you can change location. You can have the United States. You can really go anywhere in the world. Say you want to do Washington, DC. There's a few different options for that. So they have it as a state, as an address, as sometimes they have it for a specific marketing area, such as the DC DMA, which is how largely TV is operated, how TV is advertising is distributed to a certain area. So there are a lot of variety of options there. You can also do detailed targeting, and these can be anything from interests, say polo shirts. You can also get a little bit more granular in terms of education, the education level, the school, field of study, financial, which includes income, which they shows as in terms of income level, but the top X percent from zip codes. So it's not overly specific, it's more zip code targeted. You could do life events, say birthdays, friends, anniversaries, and so forth. Parents, if you want to target specific parents. This tends to be anywhere from young parents to parents of preteens, teenagers, and so forth. Relationship status, as well as work in terms of their industry, employers, and job titles. If you are doing employers, that tends not to be a great targeting, just because for small businesses, they're not going to let you do that because there's too many people and you don't want to be able to advertise specifically to these 5 people. So it's a way to protect privacy. So you can do all this targeting. You could set your duration, how long you want it to run, from the time it launches. You can also choose when it ends, or you can run it continuously. And then there's different budgets that you can run. You could do it per day. There's also options to do it per the entire lifetime of the budget. We recommend doing it the lifetime of the budget because the per day, it can get a little bit out of hand every now and then. And it's kind of easier, like, okay, I need to figure out what is 500 divided by 27 days, but also sometimes it might turn it off. The lifetime budget's a little bit better. You can also determine your placements. From this, you could choose, I only want it on Facebook and I don't want it on Instagram, or I only want it on Messenger. Messenger ads are not as effective, I will say that. They tend to be ignored or people get too annoyed by them, but Facebook and Instagram are probably going to be your best place. You could set a pixel, which is a whole nother conversation altogether, which is a way just to track people. It's like adding cookies. And then from on the right side, you can see the estimated daily results as well as the ad preview. So this is, they'll reach between 690 to 2,000 people and get around 52 to 150 links. Yes, these are really wide ranges. That being said, they can predict and guarantee definitely something, but they're never going to be exactly positive how people react or how people interact with their platforms. And it does show you a payment summary as well. I will not click promote now because I'm not going to promote this page, but that's just an example of how you can promote through Meta for Instagram and Facebook. can also take a look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a pretty great campaign manager. So for this, you can create new ads, you can do a campaign, you can create a new account. Okay, let's create a new campaign. From here, it's going to ask what group you want. It'll be a default, or I can create a new one. For this, the name test, it will run continuously. My account is on hold just because I don't have, this is just a test account. From here, you could choose your objective, whether it's brand awareness, conversions, considerations. And then from here, you can do audiences. LinkedIn already has some audiences created for you. Facebook does as well. The LinkedIn one tends to be pretty good, just in terms of people with bachelor's degrees, their expertise in certain topics, job titles, and so forth. You can also do your own in terms of including and excluding various people. Say, if you really want to get college students and you don't necessarily want to get like mid-level professionals, you can do exclude in your targeting as well as location. You have the option to select different ad formats, whether it's a carousel, a video, follower, conversion, and so forth. You can also do placement, which will allow you to run LinkedIn ads on their partner websites as well. I do believe this includes things such as basically just general advertising. You can also exclude certain categories. Say you don't want to advertise on a government website or a politics related website, you can exclude that as well. All these platforms do generally have exclusion options as well as a block list. Say you absolutely do not want to be on these 10 sites, you can specifically input those. They also have, a lot of the places have already created these for you as well, just so you can create and upload. You can set your budgeting, bidding, and then conversion tracking, like we said with the pixel. And then you can see over here the forecasted results. For these are this is within a very, very large spend with no real targeting. It's also saying that we're going to spend $7 billion. So just an example, please don't spend that much ever, especially on LinkedIn. But this is just an example of what we could see. We did just get a question. Let me pull it up really quick. What does a reasonable annual budget look like for paid social media campaigns? So this is different for everybody, just in terms of your department, what you're trying to achieve, how big your audience might be. If you're a very small school, let's say 2,000 students altogether, you could probably allocate $50 a month, and that would be completely fine. If you were a larger school, 10, 20,000 students, I would probably get closer to 100 to 500 a month for your department. It does truly depend on your goals. If you're just doing a general awareness campaign that's going to run all year, $100 per month should do the deal. If you're really trying to get a lot of people to go to a specific event, doing a short-term campaign over, like, say 2 months with a lot larger ad spend, say $300 to $500, that's going to be the best bang for your buck. I don't usually advise doing a even spend per month. Make sure you are, say you don't have any events in January, you have 3 in February, move your budget from January to February. So it's very dependent on what you do and how much you need to do. But at minimum, $100 per month usually is going to do the job, just to get everything you need to get done. But that being said, budgets, what you're allocated and what you're not allocated really does depend, especially if you are only advertising for a specific event or for your department. Also, you might want to reach out to your parenting department or division and see what their ad budget is and if you can join in on that. So thank you so much for asking that. That's a really great question. Unfortunately, highly dependent on your situation and what you're trying to achieve. So we are also sending out some resources afterwards, and in there you'll be able to see just some general guidelines, budget ideas, and so forth. So this is LinkedIn, and I'm also going to take you just through Snap really quick. I think this is probably the best for college students, especially considering so many are still on Snapchat. Many people after college do abandon Snapchat. Not always true, but this is where your audience is going to be. So Snapchat's going to ask you what business type is. I did set this up earlier. It's going to ask you to create an ad. Just really quick. Apologize for this really quick. I don't typically use Snapchat. There's my phone number. Try not to call me. But for Snapchat, it's pretty easy to set something up quickly. Their ad manager is very intuitive in terms of helping you. They also do some free credits as well. So it'll ask you what your goal is. Say, let's get some, promote a local place. It'll ask what the business name is. Let's do something near me in Tacoma Park. Sometimes it gets a little specific. It's going to give you a few options. And then from here, it's going to show you what it looks like on Snapchat. which you can set up. And then from here, you get a really live view of how you can set this up. You have the name, you can do a headline like "Come visit us," a call to action, whether it's see the place, view the menu, order, get now, directions, and so forth. And then you can upload pictures and assets. So, example, this is a campaign that I'm doing for YMC. And then you can change how it's viewed. You can do it caption, your logo as well, and the way it's set up will be able to change. I think Snapchat has one of the better ones. This will show up as an ad through your Discover page and so forth. It allows you to choose your targeting from a large area to a small area, change the demographics. It also does that delivery estimate as well from a weekly to a daily result. Sets your budget, allows you to set your running, your business advertising, and how you're going to pay as well. So these are just some examples of advertisements that you can run on social media. Some of these platforms are very easy to do advertising on. Snapchat is probably one of the easiest by far, also very easy for targeting, and you're probably gonna get a really good bang for your buck. Facebook and Instagram, not that hard to do. I will say there are some settings that aren't very straightforward or clear. I would definitely look at a guide or engage with somebody who does know what they're doing, especially if you are going to be running a larger campaign with a large budget. But these are just some examples of what this looks like. I'm happy we're able to demystify some of these. They're not that scary to use. So we also want to hear from you. Have you thought about running paid advertising campaigns? Are you currently running one? Feel free to throw this in the chat, in Q&A. You can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. If you have been running ads, do you feel like they have been effective? For some people, it really works well. And then for others, it doesn't. It might be just your audience. It might be just your assets, your copy. There are a lot of different factors in this involved. Some other questions that you might want to respond to. Do you think it's worth it to run ads for your purposes and goals? And are there certain ads that you've noticed on social media? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Some of these ads are very effective. I will say for Facebook and Instagram, those tend to have really good returns because they're not overly intrusive. They're in your feed. And a lot of times they are very interesting in terms of graphics and words. On the other hand, some of these are a little intrusive. Say you're mid-roll ads on YouTube, you're in the middle of watching a video and then suddenly it cuts through to an ad. Through this, it could be very great. If it's very attention grabbing, other times it could be annoying. So keep that in mind, just depending on what your goal is. Should ACHA run ads on social? Do any of you follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter? That's a great question. That's something that anyone can answer. So ACHA can absolutely run ads to reach your current audience. You can also use it to reach new audiences. Sometimes advertising to the people who are already engaged can be effective just due to the fact that the algorithm and the feeds are very finicky, they change. You might be liking a page and interacting with them a lot, but you're not seeing them much in your feed. An ad will absolutely guarantee that you're going to see, your followers will see what you need to say. This is great, especially if you're trying to do an event, if you're trying to promote a specific service that you can already be involved with. And if you are just trying to raise awareness, you might not want to advertise to the people who are already engaged. So it definitely depends on your goals. But advertising to the people you're already with can work. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Hannah, could you clarify if the Snapchat location is based on a user's current location or on their location data on their phone? So essentially, my question is, if I'm visiting a college campus, am I going to be reached by that target campaign, or because I don't live in the area and I'm not like registered to that zip code, will it kind of skip over me?
So it definitely depends on the campaign you're running. If you're just doing a general ad, it's going to be where your phone tends to be located, and it will take some of that historic data. So say that you're a college student, you're home in a different state on break, you're still probably going to get that advertisement because that shows that's a place that you spent a lot of time in, that you're engaged with, and so forth, even if they are in a different state. That being said, say you're doing a geo-targeted Snapchat lens or filter, that is only going to show to people in that specific area at that specific time. Not all things are like that. Most of them will use that historic data or the data that you put on your profile. Some will use some of that historic data in terms of like, okay, you've spent some time here, you're likely interested in this area. Let me show you ads
Mhm.
that are targeted there. For example, I traveled to a different country for a month in November. I still get advertisements on my phone, on my social media platforms from that area, in that area's local language, just because I did spend time there and my social media interests do show that I was interested there. However, I'm not going to get the Snapchat lenses or filters or specific things like that, just because that is so heavily geo-targeted at that very second. So great question.
Cool. Yeah, I think that could be really relevant for our group here, because if they are trying to target a specific campus, it's kind of good to know if you're going to hit the people who are actually there at the time versus if you're going to hit the students at your school, even if they're a little bit scattered.
Yes, that is great. So you totally depends on what you're doing, but for the most part, it will target some of the students who are not currently on campus or who went away for the summer. Yes,
Cool.
so using several Snapchat geo filters on campus, some limited Facebook event ads, those are great options. The Snapchat geo filters are a really great tool for college campuses long-term, to show that there are students there. There are, you can throw your brand, you can throw a specific message on Snapchat, which a lot of people use, and they're going to go to a lot larger audience. And same with Facebook event ads, you can get those pretty specific to get to a specific place at a specific time. So really great that a lot of you have used some of these. It's great to explore and try to see if these options are good for you in the future. All right, so it doesn't look like we're getting any questions, but if that changes, I'll be here for a little bit. Thank you all so much. I believe the poll was just started, but I will be looking at the chat for another few minutes until this ends. So thank you all so much for attending and for great questions and participation. We really appreciate it. Oh,
Thanks,
so
everybody.
thank you. So Julie just asked a question about what people do advertise on LinkedIn. A lot of times it's job openings. Those are a great advertisement tool for that. It's a great way to get a lot of different applicants as well. There are people who will try to promote their brand. For example, YMC did a recent promotion with one of our case studies, just showing like, this is the work we do, this is the results we get. And if you're interested, you should reach out to us. I've run other ones, just brand awareness, service awareness, and so forth. It's also to sell products, to get people aware of a business. For the most part, getting people interested in an event, it's good for a webinar because it's really great targeting. It's not necessarily great for an in-person event targeted only to college students. But yeah, LinkedIn is definitely more of the professional business promotion aspect. So thank you, that was a great question. And thank you all so much.
Thanks.
And make sure you fill out the survey before you exit.
Thanks again, YMC, and we'll be back in May with our final session. And I hope to see all of you there.
Perfect, thank you so much.